Okay, so welcome to this video. Today we are going to do a solid opening prep and build up a very solid opening repertoire with the white pieces against the Caro-Kann defense, and the lines are going to be very tricky and very trappy. So watch the video till the end because you will be ready against an entire set of opening with which you can defeat several players very easily. So yes, without wasting your time, let's move to the chessboard. So we play 1 e4 and black responds with the move c6, that is the Caro-Kann defense. So here many players like to play the move d4, grabbing the center with the 2 pawns. But today I am going to show you the move knight to f3 and show you how white is going to do very well with this opening. So black plays the move d5 and we play the move knight to c3. So this setup is known as the Caro-Kann defense 2 knights variation if you want to spread the word. And with the first look you can see that black can play 4 moves. One is d4, kicking out the knight, then is pawn takes e4, bishop to g4 and knight to f6. So we are going to cover all these variations throughout this video. You will get the timestamps down below so you can scroll through all the chapters and go through it very easily. To start off we can see the move d4. So this move, kicking off this knight, and you will see that we'll have to retreat our knight behind, knight to e2. And you will say that white is doing very bad, white is cramped, but that's not the case. Here white is doing pretty good because it is attacking this pawn. This pawn cannot defend it because the knight will take it, so black cannot play e5 and hence black plays the move c5. But now here you can see that black has wasted 4 moves, that is d5, d4, c6, c5, 4 moves with only pawns, whereas our 2 knights are already developed. So to take this advantage, we play the move c3. If he takes the pawn, then we happily take with the knight just like this, and then you can see our bishop is going to come out, we are going to castle, queen coming to e2, and white is doing pretty well. So pawn takes, then we are going to do very good. But what if he plays the move d3, kicking out a knight again? But now after knight to f4, black is simply losing a pawn because this pawn is attacked twice with the knight, you can see like this, and the bishop, and only the queen is defending it. So another defender can be the c4 pawn. But after queen a4 check, knight to c6, black loses not only the c4 pawn but also this pawn right here because there are 3 attackers right now, only 1 defender, and hence black loses 2 of its pawns. White has a pretty good position, pawn up, 2 pawns up, and hence we are going to win the game very easily. So that's why you can see this move, why moving the pawn to d4 right away is very bad and hazardous for black. The second variation that you will see in most of your games is the move d takes e4. So taking the pawn is a very sensible move. We'll take the pawn again with the knight, and here there are again 4 main moves that black can play. The 2 common moves that black plays are bishop to f5 and bishop to g4, but to your surprise both are big blunders. The other moves that black can play are knight to f6 and knight b to d7. So starting off we can see bishop coming to f5. We can start with this move. To punish this move we can simply play the move knight to g3, defending the knight and also attacking the bishop. If bishop comes to g4, simply go h3. Bishop has no squares to go right here, it has to retreat behind, and then you can see 2 knights are developed already. We'll take out our bishop, our queen, and we are doing pretty good. Therefore here black will think that going behind bishop to g6 will be a more sensible move. But no, this allows a direct attack by moving the pawn to h4, and now white is going to be invincible in some moves. White is simply threatening h5 in the next move, trapping this bishop. So if black thinks to go with the move h5 itself, then it will be not a good choice because after knight to e5, bishop is attacked. If bishop moves behind, this pawn will hang, and hence white will be a pawn up in the opening itself. And therefore here the more common move is h6, making room for the bishop and also not hanging the pawn on h5. But to punish this, we go with the move knight to e5. The bishop is attacked. Bishop goes to h7, and now we pounce inside with our queen and go queen to h5. The f7 square is now very vulnerable for black. Here if it were a bullet or a blitz game, there might be players who play the move knight to f6 threatening the queen. But no, we can directly grab this pawn and it's a checkmate. The king is suffocated inside its own pieces and it is a type of smothered mate. So moving behind, of course this won't happen in many of your games, but what might happen is the move g6. G6 is a very common move that players play so as to cut off the queen and also attack the queen. But one more move, that is queen to d4, seems a natural move, right, to protect this pawn. But no, we go bishop to c4, attack the queen, x-ray to the f7 square, and in the next move we can grab the queen or the knight and trap this rook right here. So queen to d5 is also a blunder. Talking about g6, g6 can make black think that he's doing pretty fine. But what does it do is it traps its own bishop inside a cage. And for the simple fact that the bishop is trapped, white has a very good advantage. Here we can continue with the move bishop to c4, sacrificing the queen. Now of course the queen can't be taken, as if pawn takes, then bishop takes f7 and the king is checkmated once again in the center. And if black sees this threat and plays the move e6, then we can simply play the move queen to e2. And now the black king is going to be very harassed because we are threatening a very spooky little trap. If here black plays the very natural move, that is knight to f6, then after simple knight takes f7, the two pieces are forked. Note that the king cannot take, because then queen takes e6, check, king moves behind, queen to f7, and it's already a checkmate. Moving behind, therefore you can see that knight to f7 is down the air, therefore bishop g7 is also not possible, as knight takes, king takes, queen takes, check, and king to f8, and it's a checkmate again. So therefore knight taking f7 is a great deal of checks followed by a checkmate. So the only move that black can try to defend itself is queen to e7 or c7, defending the f7 square with the queen. If the queen goes to c7, then we can simply play d4 followed by bishop to f4, have the choice to castle long or castle short, connect the rooks very easily, and you can see that black's pieces are still spectators on the board. So we can simply convert it. But what if the black queen goes to e7? Then we have a very cute little line that follows by knight to e4, knight to f6 to trade off these two knights. We take, queen takes, and knight to g4. Now this queen is attacked, and believe it or not, black has only one move to save itself, that is queen to g7. So of course by seeing this move, you know that 99% of the players will miss this move because it's a very orthodox move. But what is the point of playing queen to g7? Let's see, if the queen goes to d8, let's say right here, then after queen to e5, this rook is simply trapped inside its own bill, because now the bishop can't come here to protect, and if the rook comes to g8, then knight to f6 not only forks the king and the rook but also the bishop, and we win a load of material. Therefore the simple queen to d8 or queen to e7 does not work because of the move queen to e5, and hence the queen has to stay in this diagonal, and therefore queen to g7. If the queen tries to come to d4, staying in the diagonal as well as not putting the queen on a very bad square like g7, then we can simply play the move c3, queen g7 has to be played, and then push the pawn to d4. And you can see by the position itself, black king is crying on the board, whereas we are very happy and going to crush black easily. So moving behind, here knight to f6 to trade off the knights is not a good idea by black. If he goes bishop to g7, then after the move like d4, we can bring out our bishop once again, castle long or castle short, and our position speaks for itself. It is so good and so solid that black will be crammed inside in some few moves. So this was all the variations when the bishop comes to f5 in the opening itself, and black gets a very bad position right away. And let's see what happens with bishop to g4. It is the same variation which maneuvers from this position, because we play h3, bishop h5, knight g3, bishop h6, bishop g6, and now h4, and this is the same variation as the previous. Just we lost one move playing h3, h4, whereas he also lost by dancing right here and coming to g6 square. So from here, of course, you have mastered how to crush black. so we'll not look at the entire variation once again. But here the other two moves which have to be considered are knight to f6 and the other being knight b to d7. So let's talk about knight to f6. To trick black right here, we play a spooky little move, that is queen to e2. Now black will think the idea of knight to f6 was to play knight b to d7 in the next move, and if black continues with his plan, blindly he'll fall into this trap because knight to d6 is going to be a smothered mate. The pawn is pinned by the queen and all the pieces of black are seeing the king's death right away. So knight b to d7 can't be played, and the common move here is knight takes. Then we can take, and now black plays the move knight b to d7. From here the moves can continue like bishop to c4, knight f6, and here we can simply go queen to e2. But if you want to make the food really very tasty, we can go knight to e5, sacrificing our queen once again, because if it takes, then bishop takes f7, another checkmate right away. So knight can't take the queen, and hence here he plays the move e6. But after that we come back to e2, queen to e2, bishop d6, we play d4, protecting this knight, bringing the bishop into the world of chess by opening the entire diagonal. Black castles, we can go bishop to g5, and here you can see we have both the options of going long castle, short castle. Long castle will be pretty good because the rook will be eyeing the queen directly, and hence we will do very great in this position. Also, one trap, that is h6, that black can play, can be responded with the move h4. So this is not a very good idea by white, sacrificing this openly, but in bullet and blitz games you can play this, because here black is getting a slight edge, as black can respond with queen to a5 or c5, breaking into the center. But if black becomes greedy and takes this bishop here, then after h takes, the knight is attacked, knight moves away, queen to h5, and it is a forced mate in 3. Black cannot stop itself from being mated on the h7 or h8 square. Black can try going f7, thinking that it has created one square here, but a knight looks at that square, and hence black gets checkmated right away. Therefore the bishop can't be taken, so it was like a poisoned bishop in the position. But of course black won't take in a classical or rapid game, and so in the later position after queen f5 checks, c5, and bringing out the rook, then when the king is safe, black can take this bishop and have a small little edge. But of course you can try this position playing h4 in the game, because it is very tricky. As I said in the opening itself, that this all variations are going to be very tricky and trappy. Moving behind this variation, and we have completed knight to f6. Now what if black starts with knight b to d7 right away, just like here? Then here we can continue with the same variations. There are many other moves in spite of queen to e2 which are great, which engine suggests, but to compact and so that you can remember all the variations, I am taking the moves that are easy to take. So here queen to e2, that is the same from the previous variations, so you can remember it easily. So queen to e2, knight gf6, and he is trapped once again with knight to d6 checkmate. So of course he won't go there. Instead he'll play the move e6, and now we can simply play g3, bishop g2, d3, put our bishop somewhere out to f4 or g5, and then again we have the choice to castle long or castle short as per the position. So here I have given a dream position to you, so I hope that you can convert it from here. But what if the black pawn does not push the pawn to d4 or does not take this pawn? Instead plays the move bishop to g4, which is a very common move in many of my games itself. So to counter this, we can play the move bishop to e2, unpinning this knight, and also there is a small little trap that we are showing that d4 is possible, which is not of course, because he will think that d4 and we are kicking his knight, but we can simply take this, sacrificing our knight, as we are getting this bishop and free. If bishop takes our bishop, we can take this again and we are simply a pawn up. So therefore here d4 by black is not possible of course, but what black can play is knight to f6, which is very common and standard. Here white players think that after going e5, knight d7 and d4, white is doing very good, but that's not the case. I played this against one of my opponent and in the later game when black strike with the move c5, it became very hard to defend. So therefore I will not suggest this premature attack, but start with the move h3, a very solid move. If he takes this, then of course bishop takes, we are defending this pawn via 2 pieces and we are doing pretty good. Queen e2 is going to come and we'll be doing super fine. But the main move, that is bishop to h5, which will of course be played in your game, will be responded with the move e5. Now what is the difference between the two positions is now when knight goes to d7. Now we do not play of course d4, that is a bad move, but we play the move e6, sacrificing our pawn and giving up for free, because when black takes, his king is open, he has 2 double pawns and we have a massive attack. And of course we are going to see this entire variation after this. But what was the difference? In the last move when we directly played e5, then after knight d7, here we cannot play the move e6 because the bishop can take, and hence we played the move h3. That was sort of an in-between move, you can say. So after bishop h5, e5, knight d7 and e6. Now when he takes, we play the move knight to g5 and we are simply getting back the pawn. If he takes, queen takes and plays the move e5 so as to defend this pawn with the knight. Then after queen to g4, black's king is wide open in the center. We are threatening the move knight to e6, attacking the queen, this pawn, and also the move knight takes h7. So let's say here black plays some move like knight to e6, developing another piece. Then we can simply take on e7, h7, because now if rook takes, this is simply not only winning the rook, but it is directly a checkmate. So the rook can't take and we are threatening g6 anyway, g6 checkmate anyway, and from here we are doing wonders. Also note that we have regained our pawn, so we are not materially down. Black's king is open, he has double pawns, and so we are going to do pretty well from here. Moving behind, here if black plays the move h5 so as to shoo this queen, then we can simply respond with the move queen to e6, threatening a checkmate on f7 and also a fork with the knight to the queen and the rook. So these two pieces are going to be forked and cannot be defended. So let's say here a move like queen to b6 so as to make room for the king and also take out one of the pieces from the fork. But this also does not work because here it is a direct mate in 4. So pause the video and try it by yourself, because this is not a very hard tactic. If you get it, comment down before switching on the video again. So yes, the mate in 4 goes like queen to f7 check, king d8, knight e6 check, king to c8 and queen e8 checkmate. Of course it's not a checkmate, queen comes here and now it's a checkmate. But yes, the king, you can see it's suffocated inside like hell, and we are very happy. We'll sign on our score sheet and go home happily. So this variation, of course h5 is not possible by black, and hence all the moves that black will play here will lead to some or the other advantage to white. So with this, I think we have covered all the moves except one move, that is, let's say here, what if black simply plays the move knight to f6? Then simply we know the idea what to play. We'll push the knight behind and then sacrifice our pawn once again. F takes e6, knight to g5, attacking the e6 pawn. If knight comes again to f6, defending the pawn with the bishop and also putting the knight on a better square, not allowing queen to h5, then we can play d4, solidifying this weakness right here, so he cannot push. And also he does not have very good moves from here. Let's say if he plays the move h6, then it's simply a blunder because we can go knight to f3. You will ask me why it's a blunder, because now we are seeing this square, and from the e5 square, black's many weak squares can be eyed by the knight. If knight comes to d7 so as to protect the square, then we can simply move the bishop to d3 with the idea of bishop g6 check and mate. And now from here the castling right of the king will be harassed, because there is no way to defend this checkmate other than moving the queen, let's say queen to c7. But after that we give a check, king goes to d8, queen e2, attacking this weak pawn, and white is doing pretty well. Moving behind, if the queen does not want to move behind and the king comes here to f7, protecting the square, also trying to artificially castle just like this, putting the king into safety. Then we'll play the move knight to e5. Of course, this knight is waiting to exchange this, but if he takes, then pawn takes, knight goes to d7, queen h5 check, king g8 and bishop to g6, and black's king is crabbed. Here we are going to threat bishop f7 check, king comes here to h7 and then queen g6 checkmate. So the only move that black can play is rook to h7. But here we won't be greedy and we won't take this, because then black's king will be very safe, and also he is a pawn up from the opening. So that will also have a little advantage, but it will be very minute. So to address that, after rook to h7, we'll play the move knight to e2. Calmly looking at the e6 square, how? By moving to d4 or f4. And also when the knight sets on f4, there is a very cute little trap. Let's say the queen goes to c7. Then we'll go bishop to f4 first, defending this. If black responds the move like b6, taking out his bishop here, then we can go knight to d4 and the e6 pawn is going to hang sooner or later. But here if black tries the move knight to c5, so as to defend this with the bishop, also freeing up some of the space in his camp, then we can play bishop e3, attacking this once again. Knight goes to d7, bishop d4, and now here if we play c5, so as to attack this, we rerouted our bishop from f4 to e3 to d4, so as to vacate the f4 square, and boom, knight to f4, sacrificing this bishop, because when he takes, bishop f7 check, king h8 and knight to g6 check is a lovely checkmate via the knight. So with this lovely checkmate on the board, we have completed all the variation in all the possible and logical move that black can respond in the Caro-Kann defense. I hope that this video was very informative to you. If it was, then drop down your comment in the comment section below. Hit the like so that many other people like you who do not know how to respond to the Caro-Kann gets to this video and becomes a master in how to crush the Caro-Kann. So yes, this was for today. If you like these kind of opening videos, then do hit the subscribe button. You'll be notified about all such videos, and let's meet in the next video. Till then, stay safe, play chess and keep learning. Bye bye.